Good evening. One of the challenges of living in Eretz Yisrael is that you find out that things that in America could be there were mutter, here are not necessarily so simple. One lives in America, you go into a store to buy an apple, an orange. At least when I was growing up, you just bought one, you didn't have to worry about trumas and maasros. Nowadays, live in Europe, depends what kind of vegetables they are. But by and large in America, the probabilities of bumping into a problem of trumas and maasros, etc., are not relevant. Another example of that is, I'm sure you're all aware, there are those people here in Eretz Yisrael that don't use chashmal from the Chevet Chashmal on Shabbos. And that chumrah doesn't exist in America. If you want to be machmer, that's very nice. But basically everybody says that it's okay. I'm not saying there wasn't discussion about this 150 years ago. The mass majority of the consumers who are using electricity in America are goyim, and they're making it for that mass majority. So the minority of Jews are irrelevant, and therefore we consider that the guy is making the chashmal for a guy, and therefore you're allowed to use it. When it comes to Eretz Yisrael, and you have questions because those who are working in Chevra Chashmal possibly may be Jewish, so then there becomes a question whether one's allowed to use it or not. That is not the subject of the day. The subject that I'd like to discuss is something that I've been asked, and the reason why I would like to discuss it is because people don't think about things which you weren't taught to think about because they weren't relevant when you were being brought up. I come from out of town. Did many miles of driving in my teenage years, and it's accepted in the United States of America. I'm not discussing this question. I myself did this. We're driving on the interstate, and it's 2 o'clock in the morning, and you're tired, and you pull into a Howard Johnson's and buy a coffee and move on. Somebody asked me if that's mutter. It's mutter, at least again in my day. I'm not getting involved in today's generation of the flavored coffees, but that, just to stop off at the Howard Johnson's and buy yourself a coffee, that is permissible to be done. What about if you're here in Eretz Yisrael and you want to stop off at a yellow and buy yourself a coffee? What could be the problem? This is the subject I'd like to discuss today. Okay. The simplest question is, are the utensils toivled or not toivled? That's a non-issue. It doesn't make a difference already in the kli, whether it was done on purpose or by accident. One may empty those kalim. Generally speaking, you're having your coffee in a paper cup, and there's no problem with that. Went away for Shabbos, Matzah Shabbos. I'm driving back. Here I am again at 11 o'clock at night, and I want to get a coffee, and I pull into the station, and it doesn't have one of those signs that says that we're Shomer Shabbos. When do you think that coffee was made? Who do you think made that coffee? I will say that there are ample instances that a Jew made that coffee on Shabbos, and there's an issur of Maaseh Shabbos to drink that coffee. I'm not finished yet. That's if things worked out that you left at 11 o'clock at night. You're going at 2 o'clock in the morning. That's what usually happens to me. So by that time, you hope that the coffee from Shabbos has already been consumed, and this is fresh stuff. So what could be the problem with the fresh stuff? That's the subject of tonight's shir. There is no problem with the fresh stuff. The problem is that you cooked it in a kli that had Maaseh Shabbos cooked in it. Though you washed out that pot, that pot was used, allegedly, and we'll discuss that a little bit, by a Jew to cook on Shabbos. And the halacha seems to indicate that that pot is forbidden, and these are the what we'll be discussing today, for whom and what. That's just like a pot that there was something that was usher to be eaten, was cooked in, and therefore that is a treifa pot, possibly for the consumer, and kosher coffee in a treifa pot equals usher to drink. We don't have this problem in America. Baruch Hashem. Okay. But we do have this problem over here. And the subject of today's shir is to explain how, when, and in what terms may one partake of that coffee. And Ritz Hashem will discuss the difference between Motzei Shabbos and Sunday night. The two halachos are not necessarily the same. That's the subject which we're going to discuss. And learning about Shmir Shabbos and Ritz Hashem should help all those who are not yet Shomer Shabbos, that this Shabbos, they should be Shomer Shabbos. Should be Zoche Ritz Hashem to help give them that energy. Okay. First, I would like to mention, before we start, as in the last 2 weeks, we have some sponsors where their name is anonymous. I'm not sure how you say that in Hebrew. For Ploni and Almoni, there are two of them. Ploni and Almoni for donating towards this evening, and they should, I think that they got a bargain. Baruch Hashem, beautiful Limunat Torah which happened over here, and Alavai Weiter. The subject of kalim that have absorbed whatever it is that they've absorbed that negates their ability to be eaten with kosher food really needs much explanation, which we're not going to discuss it in this venue. We're just given the facts, at least for this question, what we're dealing with. I am assuming that all of those utensils that were used absorbed from the coffee and will expel it into the food that they are going to be cooked afterwards. Just as a parenthetical statement, I've heard many times people say nowadays kalim don't absorb. So my challenge to all those people, and to you too, go home, cook up some fish in a pot, then wash it out however you want. Then make a coffee and drink it. And come back and tell me. Okay? Any takers? Well, anyways, I think that after that, after the taste of that, you'll understand that things actually do absorb. But what? But it absorbs. The question is, does it absorb? It doesn't absorb. I think that will basically convince you that it absorbs. Where is it absorbed? We'll discuss that maybe in some other shir. At any rate, the keli absorbed the coffee that was cooked, and therefore things that are cooked afterwards should be as contaminated as the coffee itself, because the bliyos of the kli, that which the kli absorbed, are macholos asuros, and when they give them off, they are giving off macholos asuros. What I just said right now is more or less classical Yeridea. It's not so simple, though. What I said applies over here. The knas, the fine for those people that were machal Shabbos and we aser their kalim, we said that they cannot benefit in any way from that which was cooked in them. If I gave you a choice, would you like your coffee cooked in a pot that's brand new, one that was cooked to cook something else, would you care? Is there any gain? So even though we said Hano is forbidden, but over here, since the nature is a nature of Knas, are you really gaining anything by using this pot or a different pot? This is a question which the Ksav Sofer discusses. It's not on the sheet. Anybody who would like to can look into it. But in case you have the question, I just wanted to share that with you. At any rate, the Ben Ish Chai tells us, over here the third piece, that the Kedera also becomes forbidden to be used. The Pri Megadim mentions halacha, which I'd like to mention it. Many times I get asked questions by people in regard to kashrus of kalim, and I say something which they find odd, and that's good, that means that they're awake. I tell them kasher it 3 times. It's not because I stutter. It's not why I say that. There is a Bala Iter which discusses certain things which became forbidden under certain contexts, that though they generally cannot be kashered, if you kasher them 3 times it works. And in this case, the Pri Megadim says, possibly a kli cheres, which is a kli which cannot be kashered normally, it would work if you made it hagola on it 3 times. But again, here we see the Pri Megadim is going out of his way to make clear that this pot is forbidden to be used without undergoing hechsher. The Ksav Sofer discusses this knas, and he says, bottom line, that you cannot use the pot, and his case was more or less exactly the case of the yellow, just it wasn't called yellow. There is a fascinating question, which is relevant in other areas too, that I'd like to share with you. I do not have a conclusion on this question which I'm asking. The case of the Ksav Sofer, the innkeeper, the proprietor, was the cook. When you go to the yellow, most of the time, the person who's working behind the counter that's cooking is not the proprietor, it's a worker. Who is he working for? Is he working for you, or is he working for the boss? The pretense of the Ksav Sofer is that whoever this was made for, not only the person who made it, and this is indeed the opinion of most of the poskim in Siman Tzadik Tes in Yeridea, if you have a store that produces stuff to sell, so those buyers, we'll just use this as a funny example, you have a place that distilled whiskey on Shabbos. A good bottle, 18 years old, and a 14-year-old boy walks into the store to buy it, and says, you can't buy that, I remember they distilled that on Shabbos. So the 14-year-old boy laughs and he says, who cares? That's a minor detail. Why? Because they couldn't have made it for me. I wasn't even born. I wasn't thought about. I'm only 14. So they couldn't have made it for me. I wasn't around. Is that a legitimate idea or not? The person who's working behind the counter works for who is his boss? The guy on the big leather chair. Is he making the coffee for me, or he's making the coffee for him?
Is that making for the person who drinks it?
No.
That's who he's serving. When if a person has a cat,
If you wouldn't be going.
if a person has a cat, and the the master of the house says, would you please make me some cat food? Would you say, are you planning to eat that? No, you're making it for me to serve to my cat. The worker is servicing who?
Servicing the customer.
What?
Servicing the customer.
He is servicing, he's making it for who? The boss says, I want coffee here, it's 20 minutes. Or else, you're out of here. Right? So he's making it for the boss, or he's making it for the customer. It's not clear to me. We know that the boss has a reason that he wants you to serve it to the customer. No, but at the end of the day, who is he making it for?
Isn't he just a shliach of the boss, and the boss is made for the customer?
Maybe. Is a question of shlichut varavera or not? It's dependent on if yad poel ki yad bal bayis. Unless I'm not going to get involved, I'm just pointing out that there's questions that along the line that come up that you have to think about what is really going on. That's one issue. There's another issue. Why are you not allowed to use this pot if it's after 24 hours? We discussed on Sunday, what about going into this yellow store on Sunday? Can you have a coffee there? Then it's already a Einu Ben Yomo. The halacha is that something is more than 24 hours since it was impregnated with a taste. That taste becomes negated and foul and cannot answer anything else in general terms. After 24 hours, it's only usher because we're afraid if you use something that's after 24 hours, maybe you use something within 24 hours. What about if after 24 hours you could do the same thing? Mishmar says something fascinating. Mishmar in Hilchas Pesach says about a kli that they cooked chametz on Pesach with. So that kli is usher. It's macholos asuris. Chametz on Pesach is macholos asuris. What about after Pesach? After it's Einu Ben Yomoy. Now, I can cook chametz. What's the gzeira that today I'm going to use a pot that they cook chametz in? B'vakasha. So the Mishnah Berurah says it's permissible to use that. That's the Mishnah Berurah Taf Mem Zayin.
How long do you have to wait to use that pot?
24 hours from after Pesach.
From after Pesach.
From after Pesach. This is the fourth piece. Kelim shebishul afilu bishul b'Pesach atzmoi chometz sheyisrael. If it was baked over there, cooked over there, v'nivlu ahem afilu hochi mutarim achar Pesach she'oz kvar eino b'nei yomo. We're talking about by the time that you're going to be using it, it's already eino ben yomo. V'lo shayach lemigzor. So use a chametz stick pot today. Use chametz, use bread today. B'vakasha. It's not aser. The azakol muter rakim masheu oisam tzarich l'shavshef heitiv. And here we have another aspect which has to be figured into this question on Sunday night. I know this is only a Sunday night. This is not a Matzah Shabbos question. This is a Sunday night question that possibly would make it that it would be permissible to be used.
There's no issue with the tam coming out?
Yeah,
The chametz,
it's chametz.
not the tam of the
Tam
chametz?
chametz is putrid. Tam that does not taste good.
What if it tastes good? The food that was
After
in
the
there.
halacha says after 24 hours, we assume it doesn't taste good.
This is
That-
only
that-
shy to the guy making the coffee, not you buying the coffee.
So if that's what I said, the poskim say that if it was made for you as a customer, so we consider it that it was made for you. Now the case where the poskim are speaking about is the proprietor is making the food for his customers. Not speaking about a worker making the food for his boss.
But even himself, the coffee wouldn't be usher if he used it. If he used the Einu Ben Yomo and it wasn't mutter, the food's not affected by that. It's just that it's on using the pot.
Oh, 100%, 100%. But we're talking about can you, what? Well, here we're talking about
So
the
the pot's
food.
not affected. Doesn't affect the coffee itself.
100%. That's true. That's true. The question is, are you allowed to have him make you a coffee? He is cooking up coffee on Monday for the customers.
Okay.
This is a serious question you have, and I'll just mention since you asked over there. The case we're speaking about, I spoke about a very specific case. I went up north, and I'm coming back from my Shabbos at 11 o'clock or at 2 o'clock at night. I didn't speak about the case where I want to go on a business lunch in Tel Aviv with my friend and have a coffee at the Yellow Station. There's a reason I didn't speak about that. Fascinating reason. There are situations which are called b'di'evet. B'di'evet classically means post-fast. The word b'di'evet means b'di'avad. After it happened. The after fact. What do I do if I put a fleischiger spoon into a milk pot? Don't do that. Rabbi, I didn't ask for advice. I want to know what the halach is, right? That's called b'di'evet, after it happened. There are situations which are called b'di'evet situations, means that they're not the optimum situation. You find yourself in a compromised situation, and those b'di'evet situations allow you lichatchila to do things which are mutter b'di'evet. Is that clear what I just said? Okay. At least I followed. Anyways, there are such situations, and one of them, in regard to certain things, is people that are traveling. People that are traveling, this is someplace. The Bina Sodom, on page 2, says, Masha Kosov Ataz, the B'shas Hatchak, Kigon Shes Achseb Bebeis HaNochri, Kidbi Eved Domi, and therefore you're allowed to use, if you went to a guy's house, and they have a pot that they make, whatever they make, they're basel cholov in there, a regular pot, and you need a coffee, and you're in the guy's house, if you're a yotze l'derech, so then the poskim will say that you're allowed to use that pot. Are you allowed to use that pot?
You're talking about Eino Ben Yomo.
Eino ben yomo.
No, only if you're on the desert.
Only if you're on the derech.
Right.
When I am coming back from up north at 2 o'clock at night, I said to derech, right? I am ala derech. So here, in my opinion, this is a very strong reason to rely on that 2 o'clock in the morning coffee. That is not a heter to rely on a coffee, as they say, kimit chashek. When you just decide, that we break, let's go to have a coffee at Starbucks, right? That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about a yotze l'derech. A person who's a yotze l'derech, a person who has to go someplace and he's stuck. So then there is ample reason, in my opinion, halacha l'maisa, to have a coffee in that yellow. Why? Because that's the only one that's opened at 2 in the morning within 30 kilometers. That's called b'di'evet. Okay? So now, when someone's going to ask me, I'm coming back from up north, and there's a yellow station open, I know that they're Machal Shabbos, could I have a coffee there? I said, when are you going? What?
Why does it matter? Now I'm taking to that adirich. Prepare for
I
yourself for your sorrow.
I want you to know something,
Yeah.
that, were you holding that coffee? Just want to know.
Practical.
I'll go, I'll drive, and you hold the coffee, okay? So if it's shaykh, if you can, then you
So
can.
the Rebbe would say not to have that coffee.
So I'd say, first, I would say that person, if you have a choice where to buy, you should buy in a place that's Shomer Shabbos. And if you have the option not to buy it there, buy it somewhere else, well, you should buy it there. But if this is what you have,
I'm saying if you had a chance to make it where you were.
but now I didn't.
No, I understand.
I didn't, right?
But don't have in mind, I'm going to stop off at that place.
That's what I said. So the person tells me that's what I have. I'm coming back, and that's what's out there. Where I'm coming back, I'm coming from the Dahom, and the first place that there's humanity is this place. Okay, you say so. Don't go there for Shabbos. Accepted. Okay, I'm not going to go there for Shabbos. But anyways, this is another nakuda which is very, very important. Okay, so here we have some ideas that even though it may be usher, it still doesn't mean that you can't have it if it's an Eino Ben Yomo. What about if it's a Ben Yomo? If it's a Ben Yomo, it's a much more serious issue. And there are many poskim which would say that a person should not have that coffee. Halacha l'maisa. If someone would ask me this question, Rabbi, I'm here. I'm falling asleep at the wheel. What should I do? So I say, speak to Yossi Benjamin. Right? So what do I do at that point? Okay? So I said, I'll tell you what I have to say. I think that the person who's in that situation, halacha l'maisa, there's what to rely on. There's what?
Pepsi Max.
Pepsi Max. Okay.
Doesn't want the chemical.
Fine, no.
Okay. Whatever it is. Again, there is what to the halacha l'maisa. There are a few things to rely on. Number one, and I think this is a very important question. The person who's the Machal Shabbos, is he a Tinok Shenishba or not? The concept of Tinok Shenishba is over here, mentioned at the bottom. And I'd like to read the Igros Moshe first. Now, we live in a time, this is an IT that's very, very important, that people are brainwashed by that which they read. And I call them, they used to say, used to be a yes man, now the yes man is something different.
What should they watch?
You read it on the email, you read it on the internet, so even HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Lahavdil doesn't hold a candle to the truth of Rabbi Google, right? That's for sure. That's Muvan Me'elav. Okay? People get all kinds of ideas about Charedim, and they're convinced that they're out of their minds, and it cannot be. If there was, I'm saying what people think, if there was a Har Sinai, this definitely wasn't a Torah that was given. And there are many people who would say that because of the information, or I would say the disinformation of today, the idea which the Igros Moshe puts forth possibly is not relevant today. And I would like to read what he has to say. I'm not right now giving an opinion, I'm just saying that there's room for something. Let's read what he says. They are like those that are captured by Goy Machmas Hakfira Shenispashta Ba'olam, because of the kfir that is out there in the world. The Nigru Achareim, and people just follow the masses. Mikomokom Psulim Dulayadifim Me'akum. Our Mistava She'ein Lomer Klal She'nechsham Kedim Sha'akum. The irreligious people of nowadays are not called a Tinok Shenishba. Kivan Dehem B'Mekoymos She'Yehudim Ksherim Nimtzoyim. Since they are in New York City. V'gam Avoseim Ma'aminim B'Hashem V'Toyrosoi V'rak She'em Nigru B'Te'usom. They followed their toes. V'Yocholim Ligru Achrei Aksherim. They could have followed the Ksherim, V'Avoseim, Uben Yigo Yosach or Ovev Alkein Rak B'Bechiras Atzmo Yehudaitoi. People are religious. My aunt works in Bituach Lumi in Yerushalayim. The day after Shlomo Zalman Auerbach's Levaya, her co-worker who was non-religious said, I would just like to share with you a piece of information. My daughter, who's 12 years old and lives here in Yerushalayim, saw on the news the Levaya of Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, and she turned to me and asked, B'sihat Tmimus, how did so many people buy black hats in one day? This is true. So you can live in Yerushalayim and be insular to the point that you could be 12 or 13 years old and have never saw a black hatter yet. It's possible. It's possible. So again, where and what is going on? The other side of the coin. Says the Shevet HaLevi, V'tilo shenoyed from parents that are irreligious, havi oynis gomer shelo kibol emo mitzvahs, shedizgadel b'sviva shel goyim. He was brought up in a anti-religious environment. He never really got it, never really had the opportunity. So here we have two great poskim having a very big machlokes. I'm not right now getting involved in halacha l'maisa, but at least it suffices to say that there's a suffix. This halacha of Maisa Shabbos being Aser is an Isser D'Rabbanan. Certain kinds of Sveikis on Isser D'Rabbanan will allow it to be Mutter. So here we have another reason. Okay? I think we'll suffice with these reasons. But in general, the point that I would like to put forth, the question is a question. In my opinion, when need be, there's what to rely on. Should one rely on those things or not? In my opinion, l'chatchila, somebody shouldn't rely on it. If a person is in a b'diavad situation, so b'diavad situation is a b'diavad situation. Now, are you really in a b'diavad situation? Don't know. I'm not in that situation to give that decision. I'll just mention this week or last week I was driving back from Ramat Shlomo to Yerushalayim, and from where I come from, this is a hop, skip, and a jump. This is not even called driving. And I got a little bit tired. I said, you know what? I'm going to pull over to the side. Maybe I should stop off and have a coffee. Maybe I can make it home. Yossi Benjamin wasn't there with my coffee. Good night.